Nikola Tesla is an outstanding inventor, physicist, engineer, and scientist. He was called the Master of Lightnings because he publicly demonstrated incredible things with them. Some even believed that scientists possessed demonic power, as they could not find an explanation for his experiments. Many consider Tesla a man who invented the 20th century. In the United States, he could compete with any inventor or scientist in history, as well as in mass culture. Tesla is known for the invention of a huge number of devices operating on alternating current, multi-phase systems, a synchronous generator, and a synchronous electric motor, which allowed them to carry out the so-called second stage of the Industrial Revolution. Watch this video to the end if you want to find out who was actually the mysterious Nikola Tesla. Despite the fact that his biography has inexplicable and even mystical moments, you can almost understand what kind of person he was. Nikola Tesla was born on June 28, 1856, in the Austrian Empire in a small village of Smiljana. Today it is Croatia, and grew up in a simple and noble family. His father was an Orthodox priest and planned for his son to become a priest. However, Nikola did not have a special interest in religion, but since he did not want to upset his parents, he began to study theology. Unexpectedly, in Gaspic, where the Tesla family lived, the cholera epidemic broke out, from which hundreds of people died every day. As a result, her future inventor also got infected. This terrible disease tormented him for a long time, for 9 months. Doctors helped him out helplessly, and Tesla was already dying. However, for the first time, the mysterious Nikola personality appeared here. He told his father that he would only recover if his father allowed him to become an engineer. Seeing the hopeless state of his son, his father agreed to this condition, and even promised that he would send him to study at the best European university. Soon after this conversation, the patient suddenly began to improve. When Tesla's health returned to the young, unusual abilities began to appear in him. Periodically, flashes of light appeared in his head, during which he saw images of his future inventions. Moreover, he learned not only to imagine a ready-made device, but also to test it thoughtfully. And it seems completely incredible, but it is really so. If the new device, which is currently only in the inventor's imagination, for some reason did not work, the scientist thoughtfully looked for errors and shortcomings and corrected them. And only when everything worked correctly, he bought the necessary materials and created the appropriate device, or device. In 1875, Nikola Tesla entered the highest technical school in Graz, in which he was actively studying electrical engineering. Soon, the curious student became interested in the principle of operation of the Grama machine and immediately noticed some of its shortcomings. He came to the conclusion that the main reason for the low efficiency of the machine was constant current. Approaching the teacher and explaining to him the shortcomings of the device, Tesla heard a sharp criticism in his address. Moreover, the teacher read to the group a whole lecture on the impossibility of using constant current in electric engines. Soon, Tesla became interested in gambling games, as a result of which he began to often lose money. According to the memories of the scientist, his interest in card games was caused not by the desire to get rich, but by the desire to get rid of problems. If Nikola managed to win a large amount of money, he gave it back to his opponents, because of which he was called a monster. Once, having lost a solid amount, Tesla turned to his mother for help so that she would send him money. The poor woman had to take care of the neighbors and then count on debts for a long time. For Tesla, this became a bitter lesson, after which he never sat down for a card table. In 1882, a young scientist arrives in Paris and begins to work in Edison's Continental Company. At that time, the company was developing and testing electric power plants for railway stations in Strasbourg. In order to eliminate various problems and improve the equipment, Nikola Tesla was sent to the company. Having studied the drawings and seen all the shortcomings of the power plant, he began to create an asynchronous electric motor. Less than a year later, he will present it in Strasbourg. In 1884, Tesla arrived in the United States, where most of his life will pass. At the same time, it must be said that the first experience of life in America turned out to be very bitter for Tesla. He was cruelly deceived by one of the most famous people of that time, Thomas Edison. That's how it was. As soon as he arrived in the United States, Nikola Tesla got a job at Edison's company. At the same time, it should be said that the world-famous American inventor Edison experienced antipathy towards Nikola. In many ways, this was explained by the envy and pride of Edison. He often criticized Tesla's ideas and expressed his discontent with every convenient case. Once Edison promised Tesla $50,000. Today, this is an equivalent of $1 million if he manages to constructively improve the electric cars of constant current, invented by Edison. Tesla, in need of money, enthusiastically took up the job and soon presented 24 varieties of Edison's cars, a new commutator and regulator, significantly improving the operating characteristics. The American recognized and approved all Tesla's proposals. However, when Nikola promised him money, Edison laughed and said that he did not understand American humor well. As a result of this deception, Tesla was fired on the same day. For some time, he experienced serious material difficulties and took up any job. He dug ditches and did not hesitate to accept donations. Once Tesla met with engineer Brown, who helped him implement many of his ideas. Soon, Nikola had a well-equipped laboratory, producing arc lamps to illuminate the streets. In 1895, Tesla's laboratory completely burned down, and together with it, unique drawings were destroyed. However, having phenomenal memory, Tesla managed to restore the drawings and the device created by him. In 1899, at the invitation of a local electric company, Tesla moved to the resort town of Colorado Springs, where he spent almost a year. There, he conducted various experiments in a state of complete secrecy, without allowing anyone in his laboratory except his assistants. He conducted experiments mainly at night, due to the availability of electricity which he received from the city electric company. While working in his laboratory, Tesla developed the design of a large high-frequency emitter with 3 oscillatory contours, the potential of which reached 10 million volts. In 1915, newspapers wrote that Tesla was nominated for the Nobel Prize in Physics. At the same time, Thomas Edison was declared. The inventor was offered to divide the prize into 2. According to some sources, the inventors' mutual disapproval led to the fact that both refused it, thus rejecting any possibility of dividing the prize. In fact, Edison was not offered a prize in 1915, although he was nominated for it. And Tesla was first nominated only in 1937. In his life, Nikola Tesla has made many interesting discoveries. Here is the most important of them. Changes in current, electric generators, electric motors, radio-controlled robotics, wireless charging devices, cold fire, laser, ball lightning installation, electric submarine, neon lamps, and much more. Nikola Tesla's personality is surrounded by many mysterious secrets and legends. Some researchers believe that he has a direct relationship with the fall of the so-called Tungusk meteorite. Allegedly, this was the consequence of the experiment of the great inventor. It is also known that Tesla was a supporter of the existence of ether and put numerous experiments aimed at showing the presence of ether as a special form of matter. In addition, there were rumors that the scientist allegedly drove an electric car working on the energy of ether. Nikola Tesla's private life was no less mysterious than his scientific inventions. It is known that he was panically afraid of microbes, constantly washed his hands, and demanded up to 18 towels a day in hotels. If during lunch, a fly sat on the table and forced the waiter to bring a new order, he stayed in the hotel only if the number of his apartments was a multiple of the number 3. Tesla's phobia and obsessive state were combined with amazing energy. Walking down the street, he could suddenly make a sharp jump, An interesting fact is that Tesla counted the steps while walking, the volume of the plates with soups, cups of coffee, and pieces of food. If he did not manage to do this, food did not bring him pleasure, so he preferred to eat alone. Tesla often walked in the park and read Fausto Goethe, and at that moment his brilliant technical ideas shone. On the other hand, he had an inexplicable gift of foresight. One day, after a party, he persuaded his friends not to get on the train, which saved their lives. The train left the rails and many passengers died or were kidnapped. The eccentric nature of Tesla became the reason for many rumors. The supporters of conspiracy theories believe that the CIA has secreted most of its developments and is still hiding them from the world scientific community. Nikola used to be popular among women, but he was never officially married. According to his own words, innocence significantly contributed to his scientific abilities. Tesla also never had his own home, so he spent his entire life in hotels. At the same time, Nikola was incredibly capable and rested no more than 4 hours a day. 2 hours of them went to think, and 2 hours to sleep. It is known that he spent 84 hours non-stop. In January 1943, Eleanor Roosevelt, the wife of the U.S. president, expressed her desire to visit the 86-year-old Tesla. The U.S. ambassador to Yugoslavia visited him on January 5th and agreed to meet. He was the last to talk to a great scientist. Nikola Tesla died on January 7, 1943 in New York at the age of 86. During his life, the scientist always demanded that he not be disturbed, and there was even a special sign on the doors of his hotel room in New York. This is why the body of the breathless scientist was discovered by the maid and the director of the New Yorker hotel only 2 days after his death. His body was cremated on January 12th. The urn with the ashes of the great genius is in the Nikola Tesla Museum in Pilgrim. Tesla is considered one of the most outstanding people in the history of mankind. According to biographers, he possessed colossal, almost superhuman knowledge. However, he deliberately hid them, believing that mankind is not yet ready to learn the secrets of nature. What do you think about Nikola Tesla? Write about it in the comments. Thank you.